You know, he said, "Ma, if I ever leave, I want to be remembered for great things."
On Valentine's Day morning, 2005, after a quick phone call with his mom, Desire, Rashawn Brazell left their Bed-Stuy apartment. 4 days later, 2 transit workers inside a tunnel of the A train at Nostrand Avenue came upon a bloody trash bag filled with dismembered body parts that were later identified as Rashawn's. He was 19 years old. For 13 years, the case went unresolved. The brutality of the case made local headlines and national news, with a feature on America's Most Wanted highlighting the search for Rashawn's murderer. What you may have missed in the coverage was the essence of a life ended too soon.
He had a good heart. He was a very giving person. People don't know that he used to take food out of my refrigerator and feed the family across the street. People don't know that he actually gave away shoes because, you know, the kid across the street didn't have any to wear. I didn't know that after he was gone, that the woman downstairs on the first floor in the building said that Sean came to her school and helped her whole class out with a school project. I didn't know my child had touched as many people as he did. It's just sad that, you know, the world won't get to see who he would have been.
This case retired a man and then passed it along. Did you ever think, I'm just not gonna know?
No.
No.
I made a promise to myself and I prayed on it. And believe me, when I lost Sean, I stopped praying. It took me a long time to come back to prayer.
While Desire wrestled with her faith and all leads in the murder exhausted, the NYPD's cold case unit began what would become a 12-year journey to bring justice for Rashawn and his family.
I have to admit that if it wasn't for the officers that came into our lives, I don't think I would have never got this. The main officer on the case, Detective Amato, when I say beyond, he went beyond. His word to me was, I will not stop until this case is solved. I even walked away from my apartment and went to Georgia. I left. And, you know, I woke up one morning in Georgia and said, I gotta go back. Detective Marlowe was calling me every day. And then we had a phone call one day. He said, you know you gotta come back to New York, right? You know, we have work that's still to be done. I'll never forget when he called me and told me he was retiring. My heart dropped. He said, no, I have someone. Trust me, they're gonna be as good as I was. And I'm not going anywhere with family. And lo and behold, who we gave it to, Jason and Evelyn from the cold case unit. When I say that whole unit welcomed me and my family like they'd been on the case forever, and they went right in.
The New York Police Department's cold case squad was once the largest in the country, with some 50 detectives in the ranks. Today, Detective Palomara is one of 21 on the cold case homicide squad.
I'm looking over your shoulder at a newspaper clipping that has, I think you said 3 of those 4 people on this poster cases that were actively yours. So even if you think you're leaving it at work, the world is watching.
Yes.
What does that mean?
A little bit of pressure, but when you work for people like Ms. Brazell, the pressure goes away. It's more of becomes an obligation, a privilege. It's been a pleasure to work for her and her family. it makes it a lot easier.
Well, just looking at the numbers, the odds are stacked against you.
Mm-hmm.
There's piles of things that we don't know. What kind of person does it take to keep coming in every day and plugging away when you know that every day there's another file just put on top?
Because when you actually get a case to the end, and you speak to a mom, such as Ms. Brazell, and she cries to you and says thank you, you can hit every wall you want to hit. You can't replace that. So that's my motivation.
And then you get up the next day and start all over again on something else.
All over again. And I have his picture up as all my victims, and that's just motivation.
More than a decade after Rashawn's death, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez endeavored to bring new technology to old-fashioned detective work by creating a forensic science unit, the only such office in New York State with an in-house forensic analyst. It's headed by Rachel Singer.
There are literally thousands of unsolved cold cases in Brooklyn alone. And, you know, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of families who lost loved ones to some sort of violence and who never found out what happened to them.
That date back how far?
Oh, I would going back into the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
10, 20 years ago, the forensic biology laboratory didn't look at certain items right away. They didn't look at fingernails. They didn't look at other items, trace evidence that might have been taken from the body. They went right to a post-mortem sexual assault kit and potentially any obvious wounds to the body. Now that we can go back and just walk through things very methodically, we're able to find items such as fingernail scrapings or fingernail clippings that were never tested before, not because of anyone's fault or neglect, but because it just wasn't the protocol back then. And because there are new ways of doing that type of testing that have made the testing both faster and better, we are getting very, very good results in a number of cases.
In November of 2016, the Cold Case Unit re-examined the evidence in the unsolved murder of 17-year-old Sharabia Thomas. DNA recovered from under her fingernails matched that of 38-year-old Kwahuru Govan, who was serving a 3-year sentence for armed robbery in a Florida jail. Detective Palomaro and his partner brought Govan back to New York, where he was charged with Sharabia's 2004 murder and Rashawn's killing the following year. Govan lived across the street from Desire. He even attended Rashawn's funeral.
I prayed for the first time that if God let me and my family just get the answers we want, I'll hold on to my faith. I'll never lose it again. And when I got that phone call, I was downtown Brooklyn, and I've never shared with nobody. I was coming out of the Gap, and I dropped to my knees because I knew they had something to tell me. They called me, they asked me where I was. I said, I'm downtown. They came and got me, and they said, we have someone. Now, was it a shock when they told me who they had? Yes, very much so. This family lived right across the street from me. I know this family for a very long time. Am I still shocked? Yes. Do I know how or what connected him? No. I'm going to find out like everybody else when that trial starts. People need to realize that while you're sitting at home and you're watching this, there's a family somewhere devastated. They're hurt. They need someone to listen, to understand what they're going through, to help them. I am quite sure that my son's case is not the only case right now that haven't been solved, and it's been years. I think this shows our community that it can happen. You just got to keep pushing, got to make sure you're being heard, never let it go.